Paul Roberts here. I'm the editor at the Security Ledger, and we're here at the Security Things Forum. We're wrapping up here, and we ended the day with a great panel looking at the issue of securing hardware startups, securing industrial devices and embedded devices. And with us we have really one of the experts on the topic, Richard Mark Soley, who's the Executive Director of the Industrial Internet Consortium.
That's correct.
I got the title right.
You did.
Okay. Let's start with the panel. We had a great group up here, of which you were a part, some mobile security researchers. We had a gentleman from HID Global. You've been talking about and evangelizing around embedded devices, industrial devices, and security for a long time. Is the Internet of Things anything new insofar as this issue is concerned, or is this all just a continuum for you of stuff you've been talking about for a long time?
It's really a continuum, and you knew I was going to say that. I mean, we have the same issues that we have on the Internet that we're going to have on the industrial, and we already have on the industrial Internet. The thing is, there's an enormous class of devices for which Internet thinking has not actually collided yet with the Industrial Revolution. I mean, that's what I think of when I say Industrial Revolution, Industrial Internet. It's the collision of the Industrial Revolution and the Internet Revolution. So all of these devices like discrete programmable controllers and jet engines and power generators and power distribution systems and so forth, they were designed without Internet thinking. So we have this enormous opportunity to use Internet thinking, use standard Internet protocols, and build on the existing Internet to create new opportunities, and actually disruptive opportunities in lots of different markets. We have all the same problems, however, the same problems we have with the Internet. That is, those security problems of not knowing the identity of who's contacting us, not being able to correctly tell our identity to who we're talking to, ensuring that I'm getting an update from the person I'm supposed to be getting an update from, and so forth. We have that in spades on the industrial Internet because we have a lot more devices, and the devices in many cases are a lot dumber, they're a lot smaller. So yeah, we have the same problems. I'm actually hopeful that because we have to solve this problem for the industrial Internet, when it comes to power generations and smart grid networks, we have to solve it. Maybe those solutions will back up into the regular Internet as well. Okay,
so we heard a lot of people sort of either speaking directly about or suggesting, standards and cross-industry standards for development and so on. Again, Executive Director of the Industrial Internet Consortium. Talk to us about what your group is about, what your goals are, and whether, how we move towards that objective.
So the Industrial Internet Consortium was founded in March 27th, 2014. It's around 4 weeks old. It's actually the fastest...
Storied history.
Yeah, it's the fastest growing project that OMG has done in our 25-year history. We've gone from 5 members to 50 members in 4 weeks. Absolutely stunning, which tells you...
OMG is the Object Management Group?
Yes, I should say. So that's under and managed by the Object Management Group, a 25-year-old standards organization. The Industrial Internet Consortium, the IIC, is not itself a standards organization. So the IIC is bringing together not only IT companies, but OT, operational technology companies, the likes of AT&T and General Electric and so forth, to solve the problem of building industrial Internet-based solutions. What does that mean? It means we have to define use cases. We have to define architectures. We have to build test beds. We've got to build those test beds not only to solve the problems of 2, 5, 10 years out, but also the short close-in problems that are going to support new products and new services. The results of those test beds are things that we've learned that work, things that we've learned that don't work, and priorities and requirements for standards organizations like OMG, but also like other organizations that specialize in alarm standards, for example, OASIS, that specialize in desktop management standards like DMTF, that specialize in architecture standards like the Open Group, and yes, specialize in protocol standards, middleware standards, and modeling standards like Object Management Group, or OMG. Bringing together those players to define the problems and build them out, actually build a test bed with public-private partnership money is the only way we're going to get to solutions that actually work and are secure.
I mean, you were here for the investors panel, and you heard them say, many of these verticals, energy, transportation, industrial control, you have a few very large incumbents, and they're very reluctant to even really acknowledge that there are security issues with their existing products, let alone give a lot of resources, time, energy to some standards group or some standards objective to address security. So how do you move the giant, so to speak?
So they're wrong. I mean, they're wrong. In fact, one of the people on that panel specifically mentioned General Electric. General Electric was member number 1 of the Industrial Internet Consortium. They recognize the problem, they recognize the issue. They're taking an approach to developing software that recognizes you have to secure those systems, and they have to have much better interfaces than they've had before. And most important, they're willing to work together even with their direct competitors to solve those problems. And the fact that they're all joining the IIC now, automotive companies, banking companies, manufacturing companies, tells you that, I'm sorry, those guys were wrong. They know there's a problem, they're willing to tell people there's a problem, they're willing to work together to solve those problems.
Okay. How will we know that the IIC is bearing fruit, that something is concrete is going to come out of this aside from membership and engagement? What should we look for?
3 things: test beds, and test beds. Actually having test beds on the street that prove out how you solve banking problems, do systemic risk analysis on world markets, how you upload jet engine performance data so that you have much lower maintenance costs for those jets because you know earlier about, by comparing against benchmark data, whether they're having problems, whether they need to be changed out, whether you need to replace a blade. Those test beds are what we're going to use to prove out what can be done, what should be done, and what will be done. And that's the way to measure us. We'll have the first test beds in place at the end of the year.
Okay. Let me ask you a final question. A lot of the topic today has also been about kind of the ecosystem of do-it-yourself hardware startups, companies that are creating consumer products, consumer electronics in many cases. Crowdfunded often, not a lot of attention to security, integrity, and so on. So okay, you got Siemens, you got Honeywell, you got GE. How do you pull this whole new budding population of very small companies that are still making hardware devices, still making industrial devices in some cases, under the umbrella?
So one of the things that we've been doing at IIC for the last 4 weeks, it's the same thing we've been doing at OMG for 25 years, is making sure the cost of entry for the small startup is very low. So we actually have of those 30...
membership.
That's right. So of the 50 members, the last 34, something like half of them were actually small companies that you may not have heard of, because they're bringing innovations that will make a difference to the big companies and will make a difference to themselves. So you're going to see some of these small companies that don't realize the value of working together in partnerships, and some of them are going to blow it, some of them are going to be successful. That's just the way of the world. I mean, that's just a capitalist world we live in, and that's a good thing, except for the people who unfortunately end up with the systems that don't work.
Are you sanguine about the future of the industrial internet as compared with the internet version 1? It didn't end out security-wise. We ended up with a lot of problems with the first version of the internet. Is the industrial internet going to have a happier ending?
The industrial internet will have a happier ending eventually. The last question on that panel was, are we going to screw it up? The answer is yes. Hopefully we won't screw it up grandly. Hopefully we'll screw it up in small ways. We'll learn from those, because you learn from failure much better than you learn from success. We'll learn from those screw-ups and we'll fix them. And I do think that what we learned from fixing the industrial internet security systems is going to back up into the regular internet as well. So yeah, it's going to be better. It's going to be a rocky road, but technology is always a rocky road.
Richard Mark Soley from the Executive Director of the Industrial Internet Consortium and Object Management Group. Thank you so much for talking to me, and thank you so much for being part of Security of Things Forum.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. An exceptional event, especially for a first event. I'm very impressed.
Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.